Hello guys, James here, and today I'm going to go ahead and talk about a beginner's knife, a great beginner's knife. A lot of people are always asking me, what's a great knife to start that's not too expensive, that's easy to handle, and I always tell them Mora knives. Now this knife only costs $15 on Amazon. That's, $15 that's not even a full tank of gas. And you could go to Walmart, you could go to Target and pay double that amount for a less quality knife, something made in China that just honestly sucks. This is a great knife for beginners. Really sharp, razor sharp, really, it's just a very versatile tool. Everybody that's in the outdoors knows about Mora knives. So if you already know about bushcraft, all that stuff, you're not going to be learning anything new. This is mainly based, this video is mainly for beginners, just so they can be introduced to a very trusty knife. So yeah, let's go ahead and get the specs going on this knife. Now this is the Morakniv Companion MG. Now this knife, let's just get the boring specs out of the way. It is 0.1 inches thick, so it's a very thin knife. I don't have a problem with that. Some guys like thicker knives. This knife works just fine. It's 4.1 inches long, and in total it is about 8.6 inches long. And the weight with the sheath included is about 116 grams. So it's a very light knife. It has a Scandinavian grind. There's different knife grinds, so I'm not going to get too much into that right now. Just know that this is what you call a Scandinavian grind. See how it starts up here? Kind of like a V shape. I don't know if the camera can get that, but it's like a V shape, kind of like an axe handle. Like an axe blade. Okay, and it's a stick tang, so the knife doesn't go all the way back. It's, for example, this is a full tang knife. You see how the blade is one big slab of metal with scales placed on it, so it's one big piece. This is not that. This is a Scandinavian type blade, and their blades end up around 3/4 of the knife. So somewhere around here under the handle, it stops. That's not really a problem here in the desert environment. So this is a brand new knife. I barely got it last week, but I have a lot of experience with it because I have had my own Mora for about 3 years now. So I don't know if you can pick up the difference. This is a very used knife, very highly modified. So I didn't want to make a video with my knife because the grind is different from learning how to sharpen. The spine is different. I flattened it out to spark a ferro rod. So we're going to start with this knife. So I want you guys to go ahead and just see how you get a knife out of the box. I've never cut anything with this knife. It's still brand new. But this is how Mora always brings it. Razor sharp. Okay, so the blade itself, it's a very comfortable ergonomic handle. It's plastic and rubber, but it just feels great in the hand. Your hand won't get tired. You won't get blisters or hot spots when you're doing hard work. So it's a very comfortable handle. Okay, very sharp blade, very light too. Something that I think is very underestimated in the knife community. I like a very light blade. I don't like something heavy just weighing me down. So it's very light, and it's a high carbon steel knife, so it'll sharpen very easily. And if in an emergency, if you need strike it with a piece of flint, like a flint rock, to make sparks to make fire, it can work because high carbon does that, stainless steel does not. Now for the sheath. Now the sheath is a plastic. It's very basic. It's a very basic sheath. I really don't have a problem with it. A lot of people do. It pops in. It has a good retention. See, it doesn't fall out. Now in time it will fall out. For example, this is mine. See, in time it does loosen up. You can, I hear you can just with like a hair dryer, something with heat, just kind of compress it, and it'll go back to being tight again, keeping retention. But it's plastic. It has a drain hole down here in case water, in case it gets waterlogged. Has a way to get water out so your knife doesn't start rusting. And there's a belt clip right here. And this belt clip you can attach it without having to remove your belt, and it just stays on. I don't mind it. I really don't. I think for $15, this is an okay sheath, So, now to test this knife, there's going to be a few tests. Okay, the first test is I'm going to make a one-stick fire. Now, you've seen this in my last video. I use my knife to chop a little log, just to small and smaller kindling, and then start a fire with it. Now, one thing that I'm not going to be able to do with this knife as of right now is strike a ferro rod, because these Moras, they do come with an unfinished spine on it. So it's not a flat 90-degree spine, so it won't strike sparks. The good news is you could just go ahead and get a metal file and just go ahead and do it yourself. Just file it and it'll work just fine. So for an example, this is a brand new knife. Nothing. you're not going to be able to strike sparks. But let's try my old one that I've modified years ago with the flat spine. So it works just fine. So we're going to go ahead and make a one stick fire test, but before that we're going to go ahead and stop it, and I'm going to file this knife somewhere. I'm going to find a stump to, you know, just wedge it down and then file it with the metal file. I'm not going to bore you with that. My first video involved that, so you can go check it out over there, and we'll get right back to you. Okay, so I already went ahead and filed the spine on this. I'm going to use this. It's a small piece of wood that I had used in my backyard, batoning and such, so it's just a very thin piece. Now with these knives, now they are smaller and thinner than my last video with my other knife, so it's going to be a thinner piece, because you can see there's plenty of room for the knife to travel down. So let's get going. Okay, I'm going to use this somewhat of a platform so my knife's not going into the dirt and rocks, and you know, where it can risk kind of dulling the blade and all that. So that's really good right there. That's a really good piece. Still trying to get this little piece as thin as possible. The thinner, the easier it will be to catch. I'd say that's good enough. Let's go ahead and start feathering these. Now once again, I have the ugliest feather sticks in the world. Sorry about that. I don't practice them as much as I should. But let's go ahead and see what this baby can do. Let's try to get them a little thinner. Get the old ferro rod out and try the old spray and pray. Let's try to get it. Wedge it deep in there. And there we go. Start spreading these. When it came to a little bit of abuse, when it came to batoning, it did okay. And then when it came to some carving, you saw it, once again, my feather sticks are very, very crappy, but hey, they got the job done. So when it comes to fine carving, this did just fine. And look at that. With just a little piece of lumber, we were able to get some really good fire going. Okay, so I'd call that a success. One stick fire, Mora. As long as you're not a jackass and try to baton through a giant oak log, you'll be just fine. So just use common sense, get a small piece, and you can get some pretty good batoning done and some really great carving done. Now for the second test for this Mora MG, we're gonna go ahead and process this catfish. Now, butchering game, processing game, in you know, being outdoors is something that's gonna be required. Now, I understand a lot of you guys aren't hardcore bushcrafters. You just want to go camping or a picnic, you know, so this might not be your cup of tea. But just keep in mind, you know, if a knife can process game, then it can obviously process ham and cheese and things you take out there. So, I mean, if it can do this, then it can do that. So I think this is a valid test for a knife and something I very seldom see on video knife reviews. So, okay, so this is what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to process this catfish with the Morakniv Companion. Alright, so let's get started. Now, the first part of this is we're gonna find the vent of the animal and we're gonna push up. We're gonna cut it open. Okay, now I did bash it in the head. I did knock it in the head without showing that. Obviously, you have to do that before you start doing this. Just for the sake of respect, I didn't record that. But don't worry, it is already gone. Just remove that dirt so it doesn't mess with my knife edge. What is it? Okay, so we're just opening the belly and going in softly, just so we don't risk cutting open the innards. Okay. Okay, and it's razor sharp. Gonna just twist in. Open this up so we can get rid of that. Go, man. All that gunk. Man, this cat's so cute. I'm going to get rid of these as well. Remove this top fin that has the spine. It's a nasty little spine there. There we go. And yeah, you see that spine right there? And that is a doozy. Always watch out with that with catfish. So far, look at the knife. Pretty decent. It's very dirty, but the blade itself is still razor sharp. Okay, we're almost done with this. Now, a lot of guys like to skin their catfish. I think that's a lot of work, and I actually don't mind cooking my catfish with the skin on. You just eat it like a baked potato. Okay, now the head's removed, the fins with the spines is removed, the innards are removed. Now I'm just going to remove this tail. I'm just going to do some light batoning, similar to what we did with the wood in the one-stick fire. guys, that was our second test for the knife. How does it process game? Now, it's still razor sharp. There's no damage, there's no kinks or anything like that on the knife. The knife is still good to go. And as you can see, it processed the game just fine. So I'm still gonna take this in the kitchen, wash it up, and process it a little further just so before I start cooking it. But you saw how it handled the animal. So it's capable of. We saw with the one stick fire, it's capable of carving and slight abuse, and then we're capable of processing game as well. Once again, it's just $15, $15 knife. Now the company Mora has been around at least since the 1800s. It's been around for hundreds of years. They know what they're doing. And before that, even before the company was made, this is a descendant of puko knife. So it's a very traditional knife for that region. Even going back to the Viking ages, look at what knives Vikings were using. We're used to thinking of Vikings as battle axes and war and battle, but I mean, what were they using when they were just processing wood or processing game? Little things like that, everyday chores. They had a little knife that was very similar to this. It's called a puko knife. Okay, well, I hope you guys learned something from this, and I hope you guys, if anyone's looking for a knife, this is a great knife for that. Okay, the Morakniv Companion MG, one of my favorite knives. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.